Alright, and that's Godflesh with I, Me, and Mine. Yeah, and then also you had an update on the guy who's working on our theme, right? He said he should have something for us soon.
He should, later this week, he said he should at least have 2 songs done, maybe, hopefully, an opening and closing theme, and, so, look forward to that. How you been, Daniel?
I've been pretty good. How have you been?
Well, I've been doing battle with some small minds this weekend here, but, that's how it goes in Tennessee. I guess, creative differences will always, present themselves when you have a room full of writers, I guess, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. But I still have a soft spot for all writers. It's just it's rough sometimes. Trying to get some sort of unconditional vibe going, which I'm willing to provide for them too. But I don't know. I'm just going to have to fill this one out, I guess. How's the Nosferatu by Joe Hill going?
Oh, it's pretty good. I've been actually listening to the audiobook of it, and, the way he writes actually reminds me a lot of his father. If people don't know, it's Stephen King as his father. He reminds me of King's early stuff where, it's a little bit better than it's been in the past, few years. Which I know some people don't like to hear that, but, Stephen King has become a little bit more meandering in his older age, and critics, notice it too, and I've read a lot of reviews where they say sometimes it's just kind of like, he needs to just get to the point, Right. The thing is, I've thought for a long time that the best resolution to what many consider to be the unfinished Dark Tower series is for him to hand it off to his son maybe someday. And who knows, that won't happen. Maybe next time around Roland will have the Horn of Eld, and wouldn't that be a great way to wrap up the series for real? It would for me, personally. I didn't like the ending. Again, apologies to Joshua, right?
And he has good reason to like that ending. It is clever in its own way. Write himself into the story, like the fate of the world rests on, his hands writing this story. That is pretty outside the box, but could have been a nicer resolution, I think, And I mean, the Crimson King throwing out Harry Potter beasties from the window. I don't know about that. That was kind of anticlimactic. But, so the magazine is on its way very nicely, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty much done laying it out, and I actually have, I believe I have the complete table of contents here, if you want me to read them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I could tell you pretty much every story that's in it now. Let's see. I will pull it up. But as far as what I was on the Joe Hill story, yeah, it's the concept is pretty broad, or I mean, it's pretty outlandish, but it works because of, he's a good writer. Basically, it's about this girl who can open portals to kind of a bridge, more like bridges to other locations, and sort of teleport herself. And
wow.
Yeah, and then she meets different people on these journeys, and it's sort of a way for her to get away from her parents and their fighting and that sort of thing. But then, of course, she discovers that there's this guy who's sort of a wraith, and he kind of pretends he's human, and then he gets this one guy who's psychotic to do things for him, and they take children to a place called Christmas Land, where they kind of drain the life force out of them.
That actually reminds me of one of the environments in one of the last Wolves of the Kala, I think, or Song of Susanna, where they use the children to power their, virtual reality simulators or something. Does that ring a bell? What did they call it? Blue Heaven? Or
Yeah. So definitely there's a feeling of familiarity there, but not so much that it's, over the top, like plagiarism or anything.
So, as far as the magazine goes, it was a pretty close call. We didn't know in the early stages of putting this together if we were going to have room for everyone we promised.
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't sure at all. So we came up with sort of a solution. I fit almost everything in there, except one story I decided to put up on the website. It's just a bonus story, which is the Damn Lay Wrong by Texas Ridge Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And
also Tony Rosh's Mr. Smarty Pants pills, simply because we ran out of room, but we're still on very friendly terms with Tony Rosh, and we very much plan to put another story of his in the August issue.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so I will read that table of contents, so everyone who is in it can kind of know which the first is I'll release it, which is next weekend, I believe.
What was it now?
The first is next weekend.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so far, okay, here's the table of contents as is. It's first says, I Want to Be a Mutant by M.P. Johnson. The Man in the Leather Suit by Sir Jimmy Pudge, as he calls himself. M.F. Becky and the Chubs by Art Griswold. Review of Bioshock Infinite by Courtney Alsop. The Kyoto Man review by Courtney Alsop. Company of Surgeons by Rob Bliss. And then the Talking with Autumn Christensen interview by Jeremy Maddox. You. Letters to Insomnia by Diane Hamilton. In the Park Where We Used to Play by Shannon Norland. An Evening with Cannibals by Nathan Wunner. Wunner. And Biodome by Alex S. Johnson. Misery Hall by L. Chambers Wright. You've Been There by Bruce Taylor. And then the Shatner Quest review by Jeremy. Don't Turn Around by Kaylee Buckner. Quite a bit of stuff in this. It's like 130 pages. And then a few other sort of shorter pieces, like Filth Planet by Al Sintan. Oh, and then Master of the Bizarroverse, Garrett Cook, an interview by Jeremy Maddox. A Hint of Cinnamon by Joseph Patchen. Part 2 of Iron Fist and a Velvet Glove by Lars Kramhoft. Black Ice by Shane Harden. The Woods by Matthew Wilson. The Experiment by John R. Myers. Prey by E.S. Wynn. The Mounting by Kelly Haas Shackelford. The comic book Berlin 1945, The True Untold Story. And then I have a short piece by Flash Fiction by Sean Thompson, watched. And then the bonus story, Damn Lay Wrong by Texas Reg Sawyer, which will be up on our website, surrealgrotesque.com.
Wow. We are packed.
We are totally packed.
I can't wait to see what we cook up for the August issue. I mean, we've already got submissions on that.
And not to mention the art is amazing. I should mention.
What is it?
The art is amazing for this issue, too.
Yeah, you oversee that, so there can be no mistake that the art is always of the highest quality. I think that's what brings a lot of people to the magazine. Our August issue is going to be primarily Bizarro based. Doesn't mean we won't be opposed to taking other stories other than Bizarro, but we really want to focus on Bizarro and make this the best, Bizarro issue we can, and go buy some books from Eraserhead Press, because these guys are recession-proof, I swear. And we're about to talk with one of their chief editors, Kevin Donahue. And after the break, I can't wait to talk to him.
Oh yeah, definitely, and yeah, he's a great guy, and I know he's been going to your writers group, right?
Oh yeah,
and supporting
made
you.
Quite an impression last night reading with a live performance of Two-Way Santa from the Traveling Dildo Salesman.
I can only imagine.
It was a riot. Even the girls cracked up.
All right, well, we'll be right back after the break with Kevin Donahue. Alright, so that was Fishbone with Sunless Saturday. And
it always plays back better after the podcast goes up, I've found.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the phone interfering.
Okay. Yeah, so that's that was it's an interesting video. I was like, why are there children in cages? But anyways, we have Kevin Donahue here on the line.
Oh.
He's the bizarro writer of Traveling Dildo Salesman.
A classic. And also mainline editor of Race Red Press, Wonderland Award winner. One of the tenets of the bizarro genre. You've been there since the beginning, right?
Yes, since Race Red Press started, which was back in 1999.
And before you got into before you got the attention of Race Red Press, you began your career publishing short stories, right?
Yes, mostly in the horror genre, just because when I really wanted to write the idiosyncratic and strange pieces, I really didn't know of any place to put them. But I knew where to put horror pieces, of course, the horror publications, the magazines, the anthologies, or general kind of speculative fiction anthologies and magazines in general. I knew where to place those. So at the time before Race Red Press came along, I focused mostly on horror and speculative fiction, usually in short form.
Now, at what point did you decide to get serious and write Shall We Gather at the Garden, which is an ambitious first novel, I think?
Well, it started even before I discovered Erased Red Press. I had the idea, the concepts for it, and I wrote a chapter, and this was in 1998, and I stopped writing just because, again, I didn't feel there was a market for it. I was like, well, I could write this and just sit on it forever, and really, what's the value of that? I guess I get the value of creation later, maybe I'll put it off and write it when I feel like it. But then in the next year, the very next year, I discovered just by happenstance Erased Red Press, which at that point only published a webzine and a chapbook series. So I thought, well, this chapbook series here, I'll take this first part of this book, and I think that would work as a chapbook. And it was accepted, and I expected it to be a chapbook. But at 2 months later, I believe, it was decided that the chapbook series had, I guess, run its course, and they were going to move on to the full-length novels. And at that point, I was like, well, I have an opening now for Shall We Gather the Garden, finally, and something I never thought I would have. And it rolled from there, basically.
Now, did you have any idea that you were about to break new literary ground with the bizarro genre, or did it happen organically with you and a few others?
Oh, quite organically. I had absolutely no idea that about 14 years later I would be still talking about bizarro, because, like I say, most small press publishers gave wither on the